Good Thursday afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock and time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Browns getting ready to host the LA Chargers over at First Energy Stadium Sunday at 1 o'clock. Guardians getting ready to host Tampa Bay tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the first game of a best-of-3 wildcard series. We'll talk about both of them. Let's turn our attention to the Browns to begin with. Some news from out in Berea. Jadeveon Clowney not able to go, but supposedly getting closer and closer. That ankle injury still bothering. Harrison Bryant, illness, didn't practice. Joel Bitonio still bugged by the biceps, resting. David Njoku, knee ailment, resting. Amari Cooper resting. But he did return to practice after missing Wednesday. Clowney not practicing. Conklin, who has been resting on Thursdays, did not practice as well. But again, Clowney says he's getting better and getting closer, so we'll see. Let's welcome in Quincy Carrier. Quincy, first of all, what you saw with the Falcons, especially for the Browns defense, was it due to the injuries? You know, no Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, Taven Bryant, no Anthony Walker, who is out for the year, or was it something more than that? And how bad did you feel after going through and looking at that Falcons game again?
You know, when the game ended, I think I felt worse than I did when I was looking at the tape and, like, evaluating what actually happened with this game. And I don't think that this was a concerning loss. I think this was a loss because you're playing against a team that's going to give you a problem. And these are the teams that are going to give you problems throughout the year. Teams that are really good at scoring efficiency, like the Falcons, like the Ravens, like the Bills. Those are tougher matchups, right? And this is something I'm going to touch into when we talk about the matchup later on. But scoring efficiency matters when you talk about the Cleveland Browns. And what I saw last week was, you know, the defense wasn't great, right? They gave up that one drive where it was 12 runs for, like, what, the whole way down. They didn't even throw the ball. I understand people's willingness to overreact to that. But what I will say is the defense came up in some very big moments late in that game. The forcing the field goal on the 2-yard line, I mean, I remember uttering, like, literally saying while watching that drive, it would be a miracle if we can hold them to no points here. Well, to 3 points here. They did it. And then the other drive where they forced was it a punt to put the Browns in position to tie that game? Huge drives, huge stuff there from the defense that came up shorthanded. And I don't think this is a loss that we could blame on the defense. I think this was, hey, they just missed some opportunities on offense. There were a ton of opportunities there. I think Kevin called a good game for the most part. There was the one bad play at the goal line in the first drive of the game. People can question the 4th down decision. I'm fine with it because I'd rather play the field position game in that situation. But I understand why people are uncomfortable with it. But nonetheless, the issue was they just didn't execute on some easy home runs in this game, right? They had some fastballs down the middle like they planned up, and they just whiffed on them. And you can't whiff on too many. You can only whiff on so many short things before you blow it for yourself. And I think that's just what happened there. They had some screens to Kareem Hunt that were wide open. They had some plays to Donovan Peoples-Jones and Amari Cooper that would have hit big that they were just a little off on, right? Just here and there, just missing by like an inch. And that ended up costing them this game.
All right, so now it's on to the LA Chargers. Justin Herbert, really good quarterback, big arm. Brandon Staley, head coach of the Chargers, from Perry, out in Lake County, by the way, talked about the Browns' secondary and some of the big plays they have allowed.
They're very talented. They've got a lot of good players. Their corner tandem, first-round picks. Denzel, earning that big contract, and then Greg Newsome. They drafted a rookie, Emerson, and then they've got Greedy Williams, who is a high pick, and then in the back end it's safety. They're deep, with Delpit, high pick, John Johnson, who I coached, who's as good as anybody in the pros, and they're deep in the secondary, and so a very complete group.
Any idea why maybe it hasn't materialized back there for them? It's a group that's played together, but they've given up quite a few big plays, just in terms of where they rank in pass defense.
I can't comment on that. I know that we have a lot of respect for them. I know, and sometimes it takes time or whatever. But I mean, they're a very quality group. They're tough to play against, that's for sure.
And Quincy, points for the follow-up there. You had to ask him. You didn't think Brandon Staley was going to answer that question. but points for the follow-up question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be – this is an interesting week for the secondary because when I talk to people who are familiar with the Chargers, they say that it's kind of like how our fan base kind of complains about running the ball. We don't run it enough. They're actually the exact opposite. They don't think they throw enough out there in LA, right? Like they're like, why are we running the ball, right? We can just stretch the field. Why are we going deep every play? It's amazing. Like when you're really good at something, it never seems like you do it enough, right? But yeah, it's going to be interesting for this Browns defense because while the Chargers are a very explosive and high-powered offense, similar to the Cincinnati Bengals, they aren't necessarily the most efficient offense. So if you just don't blow coverages versus them and you have an efficient performance from your offense, which your offense has been one of the most efficient ones in the NFL, you're going to put yourself in a good position, right? The thing the Browns defense can't do is give up the big plays, right? They cannot be out of position. They cannot give up a touchdown in 2 plays, right? That's not what they can afford to do. If they play sound, they should be fine.
All right, let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Kevin Stefanski's play calling.
Hey, this is ET calling again. I was going to say that, first of all, for everybody who's getting on Kevin Stefanski about play calling, I don't think play calling is wrong. I think that the players need to execute. I do believe that this wide receiver core still kind of seems limited. It is 2 games in a row that Amari Cooper hasn't had good games. Skip Bayless keeps saying that with the Cowboys, he would disappear on the road. So I don't know if this just good defense he's facing or what. It seemed like DPJ is a 3. I don't know if we need to go get a wide receiver or not. Maybe he'll do better throughout the rest of the season. But Justin Herbert on the horizon, we need to put some sauce on his ribs. We need to heat him up. We need to generate pressure somehow, get him off his spot. And the back end, the DBs got to step up and play better. We got to take control. We're still number 1 in our division. And the first quarter of the season down, second quarter is up. We got to go at least 2-2. I would prefer a 3-1. But we just got to make sure we maintain, win these division games, win some of these outside games, and get ready to go into the back half of the season, finish strong. Let's do it.
All right, as always, appreciate all the voicemails. So, Quincy, what about it? Play calling, executing, did Kevin Stefanski get too tricky?
I think you can make an argument in a couple of moments he got a little bit too tricky for himself. But I will say the tricks were there. They just didn't do it. Like even that end around to David and Njoku, it was there. He took the wrong lane, right? There was an inside lane he was supposed to take, follow Ponick on the inside of that end around, and he had 15 yards waiting for him. But he did not take it. He took the outside because he thinks he's faster than what he is. But if I have to judge play calling based on was what the coach wanted versus the look that he thought he was going to get, is that what he got, and was it there? A lot of the times with Kevin Stefanski, the answer is yes, because he's one of the best in football. And it's been like that for 3 straight years. Like at this point, I'm not even questioning it. And it was there. It was there, and there's a lot of throws. I'm sure Jacoby Brissett's looking at this table, thinking to himself, I could have had a career day if I was a little bit more on than I was on Sunday. And he's going to take that, internalize it. Hopefully he has a better day this week. But it was there for him. I mean, and I hate to do this, right? But we're going to do this all year until he plays. But that's one of those games, if you have Deshaun Watson, you're not even worried about that. That's a 40-point extravaganza blowout by the first half because a lot of things were there. It was all there for him.
All right. So another thing that Kevin Stefanski has been very good at is the week after a loss. Kevin Stefanski, 12-3 since taking over as head coach of the Browns in 2020 after a loss. That's another sign of a good coach, because if you're 12-3, that you don't get losing streaks. Avoiding losing streaks is how you end up as a good team.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I think all 3 of those were from like the torn labrum Baker era, right? Yeah. Where you're just getting, sub-quality quarterback play. So yeah, that is another indicator that Kevin's a really good head coach, that he doesn't that's part of the demeanor of Kevin, right? High, low, no matter what it is, he's still this same guy. So, when you get to that next week, nothing changes. And that's what you see out of guys like not John Harbaugh, but you see out of guys like Mike Tomlin, right? Where they're just kind of the same dude, right? Like win, loss, tie, they got to be the same guy so you can be consistent and so you can bounce back, because I think Mike Tomlin even has like an incredible record after losses like that too.
All right, one of the things that the Browns will need to do is clean up those issues in the secondary. So Browns defensive coordinator Joe Woods has come under some scrutiny, let's say scrutiny, some fire for the way the defense is playing. He talked today about correcting those errors that have led to the big plays.
That's normal for us. Just, I've reduced some of those calls just because of the issues we were having. So we don't have as many, double calls or checks based on whatever it may be. But it's up to them. We do it verbally, do it with hand signals. And again, there's always a sender and there's a receiver, but you have to acknowledge that you got the information. So we work on that. We have crowd noise at practice, and I feel like the guys have done a good job the last couple of weeks.
And again, got to make sure everybody is on the same page, especially with the big arm quarterbacks that are coming around here.
Yeah, and one of the things I'm interested to see is how they play once they simplify this thing down, because part of the reason you would want to have all these complications in your defense is like, hey, if they check to this, we check to that. They do this, we do this, right? And it kind of requires, and I think the team that's probably the best at it in the division is the Cincinnati Bengals, and it kind of speaks to my point. They're not the most talent-rich team on that side of the ball, but that's how they can get by, is because they're all in tune and very smart, and they can change plays on the go. Same thing with like a Bill Belichick defense, where what you see is not what you get all the time, because they're able to just make these adjustments because they have like 3 or 4 play calls sometimes, given on the different situation. And they're all smart enough veteran players in that system to where they can switch to it and be on the same page. And that's what makes those defense be able to make up for their talent gap. The Browns don't necessarily have a talent gap. So they might be able to get away with just being in 1 or 2 calls, or just one call the whole play, because they just have the superior talent. And I think we saw that at the end of last year. And I think that might just be a lesson Joe Woods is learning, is when you have this many guys who are playmakers, they're not necessarily going to fall into that structure of, hey, I'm going to check into this and that, because they're thinking, hey, I can make a play if I jump this. But then if somebody else is thinking I can make a play if I jump this, then all of a sudden you see where the bridge starts to fall in the middle of the pavement, right? Like you can see where it goes down.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll talk a little bit about the offense. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate,
commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
we continue talking Browns with Quincy Carrier. Want to remind you, we want your predictions for the Browns-Chargers games. Call the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Let us know the score, some key stats, what you think is going to happen, and we will use them in tomorrow's show. We're going to head to the voicemail in Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns' running attack late in games.
That's from Youngstown. How come Arthur Smith can figure out running the ball can win the game, but Kevin Stefanski has the best running game in the NFL, and he don't run the ball? I got a problem with that. And everybody, I don't have a problem with his play calling or whatever. You should. Just win the game. I don't care how ugly it is. Win the game. You should be 4-0. We could very well be 1-3, but we're lucky to be 2-2. Please quit giving this dude credit for his play calling, because it stinks. Stop it. Your thought. Thanks for taking my call. Love the show.
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, you touched on it earlier. A lot of it comes down to execution. You know, the plays were there. I get the Browns have run the ball more than anybody but the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have run the ball about 5 or 6 more times, but 53 of those runs are from their quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. And again, Falcons have run the ball 131 times. The Browns have run the ball 149 times. Arthur Smith has not figured out how to run the ball more than Kevin Stefanski. Statistically speaking, factually speaking, that's just incorrect. Look, the reason the Falcons ran the ball for 13 plays was straight up in that game was because they were able to. They were able to get 7-8 yard gashes versus a depleted defensive line that was tired and starting guys who were not on the team to begin to start the year. So, yeah, of course they're going to run the ball in that situation. The Browns were running the ball against Grady Jarrett, who was blowing up some plays. Like, you can't just run the ball into a wall and expect that to work. The offense is working. The offense is one of the most efficient offenses. It's one of the highest scoring offenses in NFL. Like, I don't get the complaint about the offense. We have Jacoby Brissett out there, and we are literally a top 5 offense in like 10 different statistics. Who had that on the board? You know what I mean? Nobody had that on the board, not only in rushing attempts, but in passing stats too. What is there to complain about the offense? I don't know. Like, I get it. We love Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's really, really good, and we want Nick Chubb to get the ball 100 times a game. But Nick Chubb is a human being. He can't get the ball 100 times a game. He's getting the ball as much as any team you noted that does not have a running quarterback. Look at the teams in the top 5. The Eagles, they have a running quarterback, so they get attempts from the quarterback position. The Bears, Justin Fields, get attempts from the running back position, the quarterback position. The Giants, Daniel Jones, running quarterback. They get attempts from the quarterback position. The Falcons, you have to go all the way to 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. The 49ers until you get another team in a similar situation in which the Browns have 30 more carries than them. There is no other way. The Browns are running the ball. I promise y'all. The Browns are running the ball as much as humanly possible, right? If Deshaun Watson were in here, we would have like 180 attempts, right? Because Deshaun would have a good amount of attempts by now too. Like, there's not much else they can run. There's not much more they can run the ball. Like, at some point, and it's not even been a bad, I don't know why I'm saying it like this. They have to throw the ball because, one, they're good at it. Like, and two, they got to do it. You can't just run the ball all game. This is not how the NFL is played. You have to throw the ball to have success in this league, and you have to throw the ball to make sure that Nick Chubb can look like Nick Chubb, okay? That's just what it is. I don't get the complaints about them not running the ball. The numbers don't back that up. It's just a lot at this point when people act like the Browns do not run the ball. And by the way, Kevin Stefanski has been top 5 last 2 years. Well, no, his first year and his third year. The year before, when they were down by a bunch early because Baker Mayfield's labrum, like, yeah, of course they weren't top 10, but they were top 5, but they were still top 10 in rushing attempts. This is a myth that the Browns don't run the ball, or Kevin Stefanski doesn't like to run the ball. An absolute myth.
All right. NFL MVP candidates ranking through 4 weeks from ESPN. Offensive Player of the Year, number 1, Tyreek Hill. Number 2, Stephon Diggs. Number 3, Nick Chubb. He's well on his way to averaging more than 5 yards per carry, 5th consecutive season, something that isn't supposed to happen in the NFL. Nick Chubb has been that good. And then take a listen to what Chargers head coach Brandon Staley had to say about Nick Chubb.
He plays with outstanding pace, can really see the game and really pace the blocking scheme. I think he sets up his blocks really well. And then he's just a very tough tackle because of how he's built. He's got really strong lower body. He can shrink his surface where he becomes even thicker and smaller. And then he's got really good speed. I mean, he was a track guy in high school. He's a lot faster back than you think, too, because he's such a big back. But he's outstanding, breaking away from people. You see a lot of long runs on the movie. So very, very complete running back.
His success has mostly come from outside the tackles. Knowing that going in as a defense, is there something you can do differently to prepare?
Yeah, Bridget, try not to let him get there, because you're on to something. That's where a lot of the big runs happen, and normally it's because they're forcing the defensive back to tackle him. Again, a lot of those big runs are coming outside the tackle box, and they do a really good job of scheming him to get there.
And again, that's as good of a breakdown of why Nick Chubb's been successful as you'll hear from an NFL head coach.
Especially an NFL head coach does not believe in stacking the box like Brandon Staley. This is going to be one of the most interesting matchups in football this week, because Brandon Staley, it's interesting when he plays the Browns, because the Browns, I think everybody's seen it on TV. There's always 8 people in the box when the Browns play on offense. And it seems like there's always one safety high in the corner on each side, because most teams are just playing cover 1 on the Browns, because that's what makes sense. You want to stack the box. Brandon Staley don't do cover 1, man. Brandon Staley don't do cover 2 that much. Brandon Staley is cover 3, cover 4, nickel packages, on base. That's kind of what he does. So it's going to be interesting to see how does his run game adjust to playing lighter packages, because while it should be theoretically easier, less people at the front, it is different. And that is a different style of running that you have to do. And Nick Chubb's a little bit more patient. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game where Kareem Hunt gets involved more, because Kareem Hunt's more downhill go kind of a situation. That's more or less what you want in these situations where you have light boxes, where Nick's going to hold out and kind of wait for the patient block to break one out for 70 or 30 or something like that. Kareem Hunt's good to just get the 7. And I think this is a week where you just want to get the 7 that's in front of you.
All right, before we go to break, let's take a look at the Pro Football Focus grades week to week for Jedrick Wills. So week 1, 51.7, week 2, 58.3, week 3, 63.7, week 4, 76.1. Just keeps getting better and better. And Quincy, there's been some people that have not been pleased with Jedrick Wills. I thought he's played pretty well by and large this year.
Yeah, the one thing I just want to see him do a jump in is when he gets those opportunities to pull, when he has to be more aggressive, does he take those opportunities and does he thrive in them? That's what he's been doing this year. Right? He's been a much better run blocker, much better on those pulls, much more giddy up when he has to get out and giddy up, right? He's been able to get out in front. That block he had that sprung Nick Chubb loose on that last touchdown for the Browns was a prime example of the improvement that he's made. So it's nice to see Jed Wills coming back from an ankle injury, I think a week before, right? He had an ankle injury in Thursday Night Football. Coming back from an ankle injury and playing a really good game. And I think he, for whatever reason, he's gotten a ton of flack from the fan base. I've never saw it being justified for him. I think he's been a good player this whole time.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the side of the break, we'll take a look at some quarterback play. We'll also hear from Jacoby Brissett and Amari Cooper. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
Quincy Carrier and I continue talking Browns. Want to remind you, leave us your predictions for the Browns-Chargers game, voicemail of Truth and Reason. Give us the score, who's going to win, some key stats, key points in the game. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about late games for the Browns this year and Jacoby Brissett.
Hey, my name is Steve from down here from Florida. Hey, I got a question. In the 2 games we lost, Brissett has managed to throw an interception at the end when we needed him not to. Kind of reminds me of Baker. What do you think?
As always, appreciate all the voicemails. Quincy, I don't know about you. I think it's very different. Those interceptions were very different. Now, the one against the Falcons this week, he had somebody underneath that I think probably would have got them into field goal range. I think it was Dearness Johnson, if I remember correctly, if he throws underneath. The Jets one, again, those are not all interceptions are created equally, and that is the time where you try to fit the ball into tight coverage, is when you're trying to, you're pretty much out of time. You got to do it now or never, and that's basically when the 2 interceptions that Brissett has thrown have happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big point, right? Okay, if you can say the 2 interceptions at the end remind you of Baker Mayfield. That doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, does the play in between like the first and fourth quarter, does that remind you of Baker Mayfield? No, it doesn't. So you're all right there. Yeah, that first interception versus the Jets is really like one of those air punt kind of situations. Like, you really just had no other choice but to kind of throw it up. And the one he threw against the Falcons, that was a bad interception. Like, I think he went to the backside for whatever reason, threw it into a bad window when he had some other windows that would have made more sense, even if he was trying to be more aggressive. And that's a throw that he's going to want back. But, I mean, like, I would caution Browns fans to do this thing. Like, we see Baker Mayfield has the 33rd QBR right now in the NFL. Why are we comparing anybody to him right now? Like what is the good in that? Like, Baker Mayfield ain't going to help you. Like, if this was like some kind of point to say, oh, Baker would have been better in this situation, or if we're gonna act like Brissett was the upgrade from Baker, that the reason why we moved off of Baker, when we know there's a $230 million man waiting in the wings, and why we upgraded from Baker Mayfield, then I don't get the point. Like, I don't get the thirst from some people to want to compare Brissett to Baker when that's never been the comp. But the fact that you can even compare the two, and honestly, this year you can favorably compare Brissett to what Baker has put out, tells you everything you need to know about why that move was probably the right one by Andrew Berry.
Yeah, without question. And Baker Mayfield's in danger of losing the quarterback job with the Panthers. And that's
in danger of not being in the NFL anymore. Yeah. He might be to the SEC network before Oklahoma gets there. Like.
Yeah, that didn't take long. All right, this is Cody Benjamin, CBSSports.com. These are quarterback rankings, and I've looked at these, and I make no sense out of these. So Patrick Mahomes is 1. Justin Herbert, who's coming into town, is 5. Jacoby Brissett is ranked 25th, which, all right, that's a little low, but Kenny Pickett is 22nd. I'm not sure how you rank him there. Cooper Rush is 23rd. Now, Justin Fields, and I like Justin Fields. He might be a good quarterback. He's ranked 24th. Here are his numbers. He's 8 of 17, 7 of 11, 8 of 17, and 11 of 22. So I'm not sure what method of quarterback ranking puts Justin Fields ahead of Jacoby Brissett, other than I like this guy better than this guy. That must be...
It's confirmation bias. I'm pretty sure this all lines up with his draft rankings, right? Like, oh, I thought this guy was going to be good, so I'm going to see that glass half full with Justin Fields and all of this. It's ridiculous. There's no way Jacoby Brissett's the 25th best quarterback of the offense that's been, 5th in passing efficiency so far in the NFL. That's just a ridiculous statement there. But, again, it's Jacoby Brissett. We know from how things went in the offseason, where everybody wanted anybody to take this job from him but him, right? And we just know that this, whatever reason, people have the tendency to just massively underrate this guy and kind of disrespect him. I mean, come on, dog. We putting Kenny Pickett over him? Kenny Pickett didn't even beat the Jets. I understand Jacoby didn't beat the Jets, but it wasn't Jacoby's fault they didn't beat the Jets. Kenny Pickett threw one bad interception. The other two, I'll give him a break on. But come on, man.
Baker
it's just funny. We're watching the Baker Mayfield experience on two different teams. It feels like, right? We're watching like the rookie year, like the 2018 Baker Mayfield experience in Pittsburgh. You know, how everybody got excited over like very little because the bar was set so low. And that's kind of what's going on in Pittsburgh right now. And then we watching like a replay of 2019 in Carolina. It is interesting, you know, that these timelines are converging like this. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just we know how this goes. You know, they're gonna hype up Cooper Rush. They're gonna hype up Kenny Pickett. They're gonna hype up any guys that, you know, they thought would be good. And let Zach Wilson have a game where he throws more touchdowns and interceptions. Finally, they'll put him over Jacoby Brissett too, because they can't wait to hype that up. But he's been so booty, you can't do nothing but put him below Jacoby Brissett. You know, it's just gonna be what it is. You know, with these guys.
Baker Mayfield's 28th in that ranking, so there's
who's
that.
Who's below him?
Yeah, I don't know. We stopped at 28. All right. Jacoby Brissett and Amari Cooper both talked just about Cooper being more involved in the offense. Had only one reception again against the Falcons.
A couple of them I just missed them, honestly, and got to do a better job of trusting my eyes, and I think that's pretty much it.
How important is it to get a star like Amari, like super involved in the game?
I think it's critical. I mean, we understand that. Teams understand that. It obviously didn't want it to work out that way, but it did, and it's a great learning tool for us at my position and his position, and obviously Kev's who's calling the plays. But it's just something that we understand is something that we have to do is find ways to get him involved. But like again, I said, like I just missed him a couple times.
You know, obviously, from my perspective, I just want to help the team win in whatever way. But, you know, sometimes the ball don't always come your way. You know what I mean? Sometimes the games go by really fast. Sometimes they go by really slow. So it's all, it just all really depends on how the flow of the game is going. You know, obviously the coaches, you know, they know the personnel we have, pass catchers, guys who carry and run the ball. So I think they're going to always put us in the best position to win, you know, or at least try to.
And again, Cooper and Brissett talking about just Cooper's one reception. Cooper clearly doesn't seem to bother him if they win, which is a little different than most wide receivers. But again, I think they want to get the ball in his hands, and it seems to open up some things.
Yeah, and I think Jacoby Brissett hit it on the head. Sometimes football is just a simple game, and it's just the answers are simple. It's not satisfying, but the answers are simple. He just missed them, right? There's a couple situations. There was one in the red zone where he took the angle route, and he's been doing that a couple of times. I think they're going to try to be like, hey, Jacoby, if you get cover 2 in this look when we get to this play, you might want to take the corner just because it's there when Amari runs. It's been there for like 2-3 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if this week they try it. Well, no, not this week. They're not going to see cover 2 this week, but they try it like probably in the next couple of weeks or something like that. But yeah, there's been opportunities to hit Amari. They just missed them. They didn't trust what they're seeing. And again, that takes a little bit of time. And also give credit to A.J. Terrell. Like, he was good, man. A.J. Terrell is really, really good. Like, I didn't know he was that good until I had to watch it. He's good. And he did a really good job on Amari Cooper. So tight windows factored into that. And I think also the fact that the Falcons were refusing to let Amari Cooper just break free. You know, they were not just going to let him just be open. So that they did a good job on that too. So sometimes that happens. You know, defense gets paid too.
All right, before we go to break, this is a Pro Football Focus chart of the percentage of time each team in the league has played man coverage. So for the Browns, Week 1, 17%, Week 2, 12.2%, Week 3, 24.3%, last week, 30%, so overall 19%, a little bit more than the league average. But, Quincy, what it looks like is after the breakdown, against the Jets, they decide we're going to play some man coverage.
Yep. I mean, like, you go from 12 to 24. Something happened, right? Something drastic happened for you to make that jump. That is 100% increase of man coverage from the week before. That is them saying, hey, okay. That they felt like they had a solution after week 1, and in week 2 they realized we just need to plug the hole, right? Like sometimes you feel like you're going to get the cute solution, you're going to fix it. And then other times you realize we just need to get the duct tape out. You know what I mean? Like we need to get the duct tape out so we can get the holes running, right? Like that's just what you need to do at that moment. Every dad who has caught himself being a repairman has had that moment where you're trying to fix the pipes and you're like, you know what? Get the duct tape and call a professional, right? You know what I mean? That's what that was. I need to put man in and call a professional because this ain't working.
Quincy Carrier and I are going to step aside, take one more time out. Other side of the break, we'll turn our attention to the Browns-Chargers game. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the Browns' second half defense.
Hello. So this comment is for the Browns defense. This is for Joe Woods. Joe Woods, when you had a lead in the second half, take a page out of Greg Williams' book and keep a safety deep. That way, because you know they're going to be coming and you know they're going to be throwing deep once they fall behind, because you got a history of letting people get away in the second half. So whatever you do, keep a safety deep.
All right, as always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Quincy, there's no one perfect answer. They got to find a way to stop, eliminate the big plays.
Yeah, we look. This is not Pee Wee football. This is not 8th grade football. At some point, if you have cover 2 in, you just need to be able to run it. That's the problem, right? We don't need to come up with the gimmick and put somebody back. But Greg Williams' advice for keeping a fourth quarter lead is hilarious. He's one of the worst defensive coordinators in the fourth quarter of all time. He is terrible in the fourth quarter. He's Mr. Zero Blitz. What are we talking about with Greg Williams here? Like we just forgot who this man was. But nonetheless, on that, you don't need to resort to gimmicks. If you can run quarters, and you'll be all right. The problem is that when we run quarters, some people think we're in 2, some people think we're in quarters, and it look like cover 6 when it ain't supposed to be cover 6. It's a mess. That's the problem. At some point, they just got to play what's installed, right? That's it. That'll save it. If you just play what's installed, the thing about most NFL plays, this is the crazy part, Dave, they're kind of designed so you don't score every time that you throw against them, right? They have these mechanisms in place called 2 safeties that are supposed to be back there and don't have to be designed. We don't have to invent a new position. We don't have to. We just need to play football the way it was designed, and then we'll be all right. That's the problem. Yep. That's the problem. Any other thing, that's just going to complicate the issue more if we try to incorporate some gimmick. This is stuff Hugh Jackson used to do. No. We just keep it simple, play football, play what's installed, because it's high school teams that are able to play this. It's college teams. Ohio State has no problems playing quarters coverage. I don't see anybody complain about the zone coverage looks that the Ohio State Buckeyes give when they play a ton of it out there in Columbus. We don't complain about it. Why? Because it works. Because they're doing it. They're executing it. You know what I mean? It's not a problem then. But it's only a problem if you don't execute the defense well. And the way you fix that problem is you execute the defense. You're an NFL player. You just got to play the coverage. You got to figure it out.
All right, let's take a look. Justin Herbert coming to First Energy Stadium on Sunday. And these are some interesting numbers. 3rd in completions, 1st in yards, 5th in touchdown, 5th in quarterback rating, and he's only 24 and looks really good. Quincy, I know you've addressed this, your show. Again, Quincy has a show on YouTube, Quincy Carrier. Search it, you'll find it. What do we need to know about the Chargers?
One of the things I'm interested to see with Justin Herbert, right, because he looked really good last week, but can you name me anybody that played for the Texans defensive line?
No. And I
the
follow
one
that a
defensive
lot.
line they played against that I can name since the injury, right, was the Jaguars. They got Trevon Walker. They got a bunch of dudes out there. That was a bad game for them, right? So, yes, he looked fine last week, and he looked like Justin Herbert, but I'm wondering, like, maybe that might have been because there was really no pressure on him. If you can get pressure on him, if you can put the presence of Myles Garrett and Clowney out there, I think things change drastically. But again, Justin Herbert, he's really good. He's a good quarterback. I mean, like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But there are still holes you can attack on this Chargers team and still on this Chargers offense, even though he's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, Slater, their left tackle, is out. He was a number 1 pick a couple years ago. He's out for the season. Williams is going to play. Mike Williams is going to be a problem. Keenan Allen, they're still day-to-day with him. He's banged up. Gerald Everett, one of their tight ends, free agent signing, has been a big guy. And Herbert has rib cartilage issues. So if you do get to him, there's a chance he could be in some discomfort, if you will.
Or even it just might be if there's pressure, it changes his tendencies, right? Because he doesn't want to get hit. That's where the rib cartilage stuff affects him, right? Because it's one thing when you don't really fear any of the edge rushers that are coming for you. It's another thing when you look to your left and you're like, that's a 6th-round pick, and that is Myles Garrett. That might change how your patience and your progressions in the play call. And I think that's going to be something interesting to watch because that's the situation Justin's in. Myles is playing it seems like. So he's gonna have to look there, see a 6th-round pick, tell him he's all good on Myles Garrett, and just see how that works out for him.
What are some keys to this one? When you look at it, what do the Browns need to do to get a win? What can they not do in order to get that win?
Well, you don't want to give them extra possessions, right? That's the thing, right? Limit the possessions. Play the football that you've been playing, right? Dave, I don't know if you noticed, but these Browns games have been going to halftime at like 2 o'clock, right? Like they 1 o'clock kickoff, 2 o'clock. That's the good thing, right? If the Browns can go to halftime at 2 o'clock again this week, we're in a good position because that means that we're playing our game. We're able to score. We're able to run. We're able to do what we want. I know everybody wants the big Nick Chubb 80-yard run, but I don't want a game where Nick Chubb has 80 yards from one run and then 40 from the rest of the game. I want a game where Nick Chubb's biggest run might be 15 yards, but he has 125, right? And he's able to just consistently get those chunks because the small chunks, the 7, 8, 9-yard chunks, the more of those you can get against this Chargers defense, the more and more of a bind you're going to put their offense in. The Chargers' offense's efficiency is not great. They only score on 36% of their total possessions this year. The Browns score on 49%. If you keep the possessions low, you should win this football game. And that's going to be the goal, right? You want to keep the Chargers under 12 possessions. If you can do that and you can maintain your numbers offensively, which all numbers indicate that you should, same thing defensively, if you could maintain the Chargers average. And let's also remember, this Chargers defense is allowed 27 points per game. Browns defense is only allowed 24. And this Browns offense averages 26, while the Chargers only average 23. So you're in a position to win this game if you just play the ball that you know how to play. You don't have to do anything special. You don't have to be a special team. You don't have to be a different team than you were last week. You just have to play your game against the Chargers, and you should win it. And that goes for the Chargers, too. The Chargers don't have to be a different team this week for you to beat them. They don't have to play specifically bad. They don't have to give you +3 in turnover or something like that. Like, you will be fine if you play your game and make minimal mistakes on both sides of the ball. You should be able to win this game. That's what I would preach to this team. I know a lot of people aren't expecting the Browns to win this one, but the more I look into it, the more I feel like this is a game the Browns should win. This is a game that they're in position to win, and this is a game to have a wide path to victory.
Quincy Carrier, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Quincy.
No problem. You have a great day.
All right, Quincy Carrier. Make sure you search him on YouTube. Check out his show. It's a good one. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out on the other side of the break. We're talking baseball. Guardians begin Wild Card Series play at noon tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll have a preview. Stay with us.
Come back to Go Forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
The Greater Cleveland Sports Hall of Fame celebrates the star athletes and notable sports figures who were born or have made their home in Greater Cleveland. It tells the story of discipline, commitment, perseverance, sportsmanship, and excellence in achievement. It encourages and inspires those who believe in sport and its direct impact on the well-being of our community. Go to clevelandsportshall.com or follow us on Twitter at GCLE Sports HOF for more details.
We turn our attention to playoff baseball. Guardians will start a best-of-3 series, all 3 games over at Progressive Field, starting at noon tomorrow. Guardians against the Rays. And the Guardians are the youngest team in Major League Baseball this year, and for only the 8th time in the history of Major League Baseball, the youngest team has made the postseason. It's the first time since the 1986 Mets. Before that, 70 Reds, the 49 Dodgers, the 50 Phillies, the 44 Dodgers, and the 43 and 44 Cardinals, the youngest teams. Terry Francona talked about this year's team and its youth.
I mean, the whole year's kind of felt a little different because every time we go through something, it's kind of for the first time. So, it hasn't held us back, but I don't think when you're a veteran player and you go through a tough time, okay, you have something to fall back on. These guys have kind of been doing it as they're learning. They've done a pretty good job of it. We just told them now, just play the game the way you know how to play baseball. That's, this is why they work so hard, is to get to this where they can enjoy, and embrace the competition. I don't see them backing down. There's no crystal ball. Tampa's going to probably do the same thing, but see how we do.
And again, the matchup between Tampa and the Guardians is an interesting one. Very two similar teams. Not a lot of power, some pretty good pitching, decent defense, a lot of speed. Let's take a look at the Guardians' projected lineup. Again, this is not the official lineup. This is the projected lineup. Major League Baseball, MLB, ranked all 12 of the playoff teams. They ranked the Guardians 11th and the Rays 12th. But you see Kwan, Rosario, Ramirez, Naylor, Gonzalez, Jimenez, Miller, Hedges, Straw. The standard lineup. The bottom line, when you look at it, it's a lot like the brand of baseball that they're geared to high contact. They have the best contact rate in Major League Baseball, smart, aggressive base running, and it's been compared to the 14-15 Royals, which was very successful. Now here's the note that you'll keep hearing. Past 4 postseasons, 86% of postseason games have gone to the team that has out-homered the other, and that's compared to 77% in the regular season. And again, second lowest homer rate in Major League Baseball, in all of Major League Baseball. That's not relative to the playoffs. Terry Francona knows all those numbers, but he said he really has enjoyed and has been energized by the way this year's team plays.
A lot. The fact that these guys bought in so much, and then Valleca really did a good. I mean, man, you talk about every day having to show up because we don't have the ability to kind of, usually hit a 3-run homer and maybe play a sloppy game and win, But to see all the work that everybody puts in and how, like listening to him last night, his preparation just for that meeting makes you feel good. But I love the way I would think our team is an easy team to like. They're good kids. I know we got a couple that aren't kids, but they're good people and they treat the game with so much respect. I hope people want to show up and help them out because they deserve it.
And Valleca is Chris Valleca, the Indians hitting coach. Again, they put the ball in play and strike out less than anybody. So their strikeout rate lowest in baseball, contact rate the highest in baseball. Josh Naylor, he's a guy that battled through that injury a season ago, has come back and has been playing really well. Had 2 home runs and 7 runs batted in the ninth, from the 9th inning on, in an extra inning win against the Chicago White Sox early in the season. It's a game that a lot of people point to as when this team started believing they could win the Central Division.
I mean, I started to believe the first day of spring training. That was just another night for me, to be honest. Play the game hard every night and great things happen, or it just doesn't go your way. That's baseball. And that night was a cool experience because, we fought from a lot of runs down, and I think we had the opportunity to do that, every year. We're never out of a game. And that was just, that was huge for us in a way where we faced a great team with phenomenal players on it, faced a great closer, and we were able to come back from such a deficit and, win that game. And it was, I don't know, I believe from day one in spring. I'm not going to say that was the day where, everything kind of turned around, because for me, it didn't. It started first day of practice. Like, we knew what we had on the squad. We knew what we were capable of. And from there on, it was just try your hardest to win games, no matter how, they don't count how, they count how many.
They don't count how, they count how many. Another turning point for the Guardians this season. Stephen Kwan, who started out really good, went through a little bit of struggles, and then came back and ended up hitting over 300 as a rookie outfielder. Moved him from the number 2 hole to the leadoff spot, moved Miles Straw down to 9, and the offense really started to work. Here is Stephen Kwan talking about, was it an adjustment moving to that leadoff spot?
I don't know if it changed my game too much. I remember earlier in the year when I was in the 2 hole, coaches were saying that a lot of the good things that I do is kind of see a lot of pitches for the guys behind us, like Jose, Franmil at the time. And I think in the leadoff spot, that just allows that even more, kind of see what the pitchers got that day, kind of get a feeler out for that. And, hopefully that allows for kind of the guys behind me to ambush the first pitch or just feel a little more comfortable in the box. I think that's kind of the big thing for me, is just I want to give all my guys the best look I can. And, if I get on base, that's a plus, but it's really playing the long game. We're shooting for 2 or 3 at-bats to get the starter, and then hopefully we can wear him down.
You seem such a natural as a leadoff hitter. Do you hope to stay there for the rest of your career now?
I mean, it is what it is. I've been in there kind of my whole life, so it's kind of a home that I can't get away from. But, I mean, honestly, as long as I'm useful to the team, wherever in the lineup, that's all I can hope for. You obviously have kind of ideas of where you'd like to be, but at the end of the day, as long as the team's winning and, we're rolling along, it really doesn't matter.
Guardians rookie left fielder Stephen Kwan. We're step aside, take a quick time out. We will continue to preview this first-round wild card matchup between the Rays and the Guardians. Sports for CLE will be right back talking baseball. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
Guardians getting ready to open up the playoffs at noon over at Progressive Field tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Rays. It's a matchup of two managers, Terry Francona, Kevin Cash for the Rays. Guys that are really good friends, have worked together, have known each other. They talked about the opponent. Francona talked about the Rays, Cash about the Guardians.
They're very athletic also. I mean, they got a ton of stolen bases, and they're not afraid to run. So our pitchers are going to need to pay attention to that, because if they start having a track meet, kind of like we do, it can create some issues. So the ball needs to end up where it's supposed to, and our pitchers are going to have to be cognizant that they do want to run. Now, the best way to stop that is by keeping them off base. But that's probably not going to happen every single time.
I mean, look, you can compliment them on every facet. Play good defense. Their pitching, we saw all three of the pitchers I'm guessing that we're going to see here. Very talented starters. Back into the bullpen is pretty dominant. And then offensively, there's a lot of talk and a lot of compliment about lineups that don't strike out, because we're kind of in the strikeout era right now. Cleveland's one of them. And, we saw it firsthand. We played a lot of tight ball games. And when you have guys that are constantly putting pressure on you by putting the ball in play, it presents challenges. You got to play really clean defensively when you're not picking up strikeouts. And I think we're kind of used to striking out teams. Certainly in the East, you got some thunder, but with that comes strikeouts.
So Cash mentioned Rays, Guardians played here at Progressive Field last week before that. Stephen Kwan talked about the advantage that presents.
It's definitely fresher in the memory of kind of how the pitchers approached us, how the hitters approached our pitchers. It's more fresh in the mind. You don't have to go back in the film to kind of see some stuff. The arms are going to be more recent. So I think all those kind of things help out, especially because they were at home with us too. So it's definitely an advantage, I would say.
And it is a best of three. Game one has Shane McClanahan, a really talented young pitcher, left-hander for the Rays. He's already pitched some big games in his young career already. Talked about that as well as facing the Guardians.
They're a good team, obviously. And, there's a reason they're in this position. And they're a competitive group of guys. That lineup's good. Their pitching's very good. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to compete against them.
Some of the challenges dealing with a lineup like this that doesn't really strike out specific content.
Still a lot of strikes. Trust the guys behind you.
How much do you relish this opportunity to pitch? I know it's lined up this way, but it's lined up this way for a reason, to pitch game on a playoff series, especially in a short series.
I'm honored. This is, I feel like I've had a lot of kind of big spots so far in my short career. Game one last year and game one this year and the playoffs in 2020. And, I think it's really cool for me. 6-7-year-old me would be ecstatic to see where I am today. And, I think that's just a testament to the hard work and everything like that I've put in throughout my career. And I think good things happen to good people. And, I'm trying every day to be the best person I can be on and off the field. And, I just got to keep it simple and trust what I can do.
Shane McClanahan, starter in game one for the Rays. Now he's coming off a shoulder ailment where he spent some time on the IL, so he will be on a pitch count. Shane Bieber will get the start for the Guardians. He realizes this team has to play the right way if they're going to win.
No doubt. I think we've learned how to do that. It's not easy to do, especially in today's game and where it's trended. But for our style of baseball, we need to rely on each other and trust each other to get the job done, to run the bases well, be smart and disciplined, put the ball in play, don't strike out, move runners over, tag up when needed and when possible. So those two kind of coincide with each other, but they're definitely necessary. Our brand of baseball and trusting each other to lean on one another.
Again, it's Bieber against McClanahan, Guardians against the Rays. Game 1 tomorrow. 12:07 is the first pitch over at Progressive Field. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. Want to remind you, call the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Leave us your predictions for the Browns-Chargers game on Sunday. We'll play those for you tomorrow on Sports for CLE. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on Sports for CLE.